goodness. Okay, welcome to Plors and Pros. It has been a chaotic day, to say the least, and yeah, I was so tempted to film somewhere else, but this is my comfort zone. This is where I feel like I have the best lighting, where I don't have to do any editing later for said lighting, and this is the time. It's time to talk about all the books that I read in the month of April. I have on me as my pour, if you will. It's a single shot iced latte, brown sugar latte. Oh, praise God from whom all blessings flow. And then we have my Stanley. I think this is an important moment to say an ad for drinking water. I don't have any ads on this channel, let's be real, but drink water, hydration, it's good stuff. Okay, so that was a long roundabout way to say that this video is all about the books that I read in the month of April. April was a unique month. I definitely had moments where I questioned my reading choices. I had moments where I went, why did I let social media choose what books I read? And then other times where I went, wow, they picked a good one. It just kind of was a month where I had to make some pivots for myself. I had to really recognize and understand that just some books are not going to be easy hitters or easy read books. And that's okay. I don't think that there is anything wrong with that or bad about that. So let's start off with all the books that I read in April. I am going to go or try to go in monthly order to kind of also talk through how just the month went in general. I do have to say though, I read 7 books. There are 6 books here, and then I did my first audiobook this month, which actually went better than I thought, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about all the books I read. So the first book that I read, and I am counting it in the month of April, even though it's complicated, you guys. I finished this April 1st, but you know what? I'm counting it. That's when I finished it. I did read about 200 pages in that one day, so I think that's enough to say that. But I am currently rereading the Throne of Glass series. I was on to Heir this month, and I just truly enjoy this series so much. I think that this book is really when you get into the more exciting character development, the more building, if you will, of Celaena's character line. And I don't want to say anything else about this one because I think it can give a lot of spoilers if you hadn't read Throne of Glass before, but I still stand by, I think this is the best series that Sarah J. Maas has Sarah J. Maas has written, and I love ACOTAR. We'll get into Crescent City here soon, but I really enjoyed this book, Heir, and I reread it, and I rated it again 5 stars just because I had to. So, started off April fairly strong. Okay, so the book that I read next went back into Sarah J. Maas' world, but a completely different world, and that is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. This is the first book in the Crescent City series. There are currently published 3 books. A 4th book at some point along the line is going to wrinkle down. And let me just say, I decided it was time to read this book because Sarah J. Maas, if you are a part of the Maasverse at all, you know that she is in the process of publishing ACOTAR 6, 7, and then 8 will probably, I would imagine, come out the end of next year of 2027. So she's busy. She's a busy girl. She's writing a bunch of stuff. And I have heard that in Crescent City, specifically the 3rd book, that there are characters that get introduced from ACOTAR world. And so I'm taking it upon myself, because I honestly have not read Crescent City, to read it in preparation for ACOTAR 6. I just think I can't avoid this world anymore. And so I read it. Here are my thoughts that are very complicated and convoluted so far. I will say when I rated this book, which trusty Fable app, I landed on a 4-star rating for this book. And it's complicated, you guys. I would say the first 400 pages, I was sitting at like a 3-star rating, truthfully. Not bad, but not great. Like, just super random and chaotic at best. I think when you listen to Sarah J. Maas's interview with Call Her Daddy, which I don't listen to Call Her Daddy, but I did listen to that interview, I could tell that this series was just kind of a fun world, something completely different, and definitely heavily urban fantasy. And I really don't know if urban urban fantasy is my favorite fantasy genre or subgenre as a whole. So I think that's really important to mention in this because some people love Crescent City. And listen, tell me in the comments, like, the things I'm not thinking about with this book series, but I just felt like the first 400 pages, we weren't doing a lot. There was a lot of world building, of course, but it was just so random, so just not making a lot of sense. It's probably going to offend some people on here, but they're just like my thoughts, my opinions. I have nothing against Sarah J. Maas as a writer. I just think this series was kind of one where she's just trying something new, and I don't know if it fully worked for me. However, the second half of the book was really when it kind of started to pick up, and I went, oh, this is interesting. This is different. She's taking a whole new step in a different direction as far as Bryce goes, the main character, as far as the main male character, Hunt. At least I think he's the main male character of the rest of the series goes, but that was really interesting to me, and I definitely enjoyed that part. I did think it was really funny how a lot of the characters would text each other and drink beer and party and do drugs. It was just a very random, weird thing for me, but I'm not saying I didn't like it, but I did not love it, and it was a little bit of a downfall, and honestly, I think this put me in somewhat of a reading slump. It took me 10 days to finish this book, which she big, she a thick book, and the rest of them are huge books. And yeah, I will be continuing with this series. I'm going to take a break from it though, and I really want to focus on Throne of Glass just because I love that world. It's making me happy, and I need a series that's going to make me happy. So that's Crescent City House of Birth and Blood, which, by the way, this is a lot of pages, okay? Just take a moment for the pages. Okay, next up, I read The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis. My original game plan in rereading Chronicles of Narnia was that I was going to read a book a month from the series. I started this back in November. November, I read Magician's Nephew. December, I read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. January, Horse and His Boy. February, Prince Caspian. March, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. So we have in April, The Silver Chair. And I have to say, I just forget how much I love Puddleglum in this book. Just special note for Puddleglum. I rated this one not quite a full 5 stars. I gave this 4.5 stars. I don't think that this is my one of my favorite books in the series, but I definitely think there's so many beautiful parallels to life and to Jill and Eustace and Puddleglum, and I just really enjoy this book. I would be so interested in this book as a movie. I think it would do really well. I think it would be a fun time, and I think it would be interesting to see how a director would do the underworld. So I have to say this too. I am very pumped about Greta Gerwig directing Chronicles of Narnia and equally parts nervous. But that's The Silver Chair, 4.5 stars. And it was a good palate cleanser for me. It's obviously a lot shorter of pages, and I really needed that, especially with what was to come for the rest of this month. So, okay. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about are actually 3. But the next book, this was voted on by my Instagram community. You can go follow me. It's actually, I changed the name to @PoursandPros. It's a really fun time. And one of the things that I did was I ended up doing a Instagram poll of what book should I read? And it was between this book, The Everlasting by Alexi Harrow, and the other book, The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown, which we'll probably read here soon. And Instagram chose this one. They said, you should read this book. Now, granted, I had about 10 votes, but it was definitely in favor of The Everlasting. I also didn't show people the book. I put fun emojis, just something unique and exciting for people. And this is probably gonna hurt some people watching this, maybe. I had found that this book has hit the Goodreads, hit the Fable app, hit the BookTube, Bookstagram world. And actually, one of my favorite book podcasts, 2 of my favorite book podcasts, kept talking about this book. And I just decided, this is a good one. The cover alone, you guys, just a moment for the cover. Look how gorgeous this is. And then I got the one with the blue, teal, I guess that's teal, frayed edges. She's pretty, okay? And I saw how many pages this book was, 300 pages, and I thought, this will be great for me. This will be a good one, especially after Throne of Glass, Crescent City. It's a fantasy standalone. Let's read it. And yeah, it was a rough time. Let me give you the premise of this book. So we are looking at Sir Una Everlasting. She is a female knight. She is a important piece of history in this world. And then we have down the line, we have a historian, Owen Mallory. He is kind of the main male character. He is obsessed with Una Everlasting, has written kinds of just papers and essays and researched her. And he also, in his childhood, felt like he had met her, which is kind of a whole side plot that you find right at the beginning of the book. But Owen is met with another historian who she wants Owen to kind of go back in time and help Una really just live up to history for history's sake. And so there's time travel involved in this book. That part wasn't too bad. Once I kind of understood the world and how he time traveled, it all just tracked. It all kind of, for the most part, made sense until we basically go through this like scenario, history and all this stuff, and then Owen realizes at the end of it, when Una Everlasting dies, which that's not a spoiler, it's in the book, she dies. But then the woman who gets him to travel back in time to fix history essentially goes, we need to fix some things, re-edit some things. And he's like, wait, what? And so he travels back in time again. You relive that whole other part of the story with Una's perspective. And that's where, for me, it just took me a long time to really get into it. And Owen and Una are connected, and you find out how they are much later in the book. But the first half of the book, you're kind of reliving the same scenario twice with the perspective of two different characters. And that's where the book kind of lost it for me. I just felt like it was taking a while, this wasn't making sense, and then around 175 pages, something pretty pivotal happens with Owen, and you realize, oh shoot, like this is kind of a big deal, and Owen and Una kind of start to fall in love as this goes on. But I have to say this first off. I ended up rating this book 3.75 stars. I will be honest with you. It was borderline 2.75, 3 stars halfway through the book. I was like, this is just not what I thought it was going to be. But then some things changed. And I will have to say this. This is not a dig at Alex E. Harrow. I thought she was a brilliant writer. Just her prose and everything that she put in this book. The characters, you guys, the characters. The setting. I could picture so much of what this author was trying to communicate. I think the problem for me was it just dragged a little too long when it came to some of the plot with the book in and of itself. And so I think that's where my biggest struggle with it was. I still rated it 3.75 stars, and that really is because the last 100 pages, you're just holding onto the edge of your seat going, wait, what? And it is truly beautiful. And you find out what the deal with Una is and how she and Owen are connected, and it's really great and really cool, and I liked the ending a lot. So I might bump it down to 3.5 stars, but I'm gonna hold true to 3.75 stars. But this was a complicated book for me. Okay, next up, after that book, by the way, took me almost 2 weeks. So by this point in the month, I've only read 4 books. I'll be lucky if I can get to 5 or 6, but we're just gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out. Somehow, some way, we're going to remedy this because my book goal for the year is 80 books, and I have to average 7 books almost every month. I get a couple months of leeway, but I need to be reading at least 6 to 7 books. So I picked up The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, which, mind you, didn't really go with the plan. I was gonna wait and read this in May, but in my mind I'm just going, why is this? Why is my brain just struggling to read? This is when the reading slump really hit. Crescent City was kind of bringing me into a reading slump, and The Everlasting really put me into a reading slump. And so to remedy it, I picked up The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. I just decided, you know what? I need something that is short. And I just read a short book, but I just need something that is going to get my mind off of my woes and get me back into my love of reading, which I think is really important. And I will say, after I finished The Everlasting, I took about 3 days of a reading break just because I just couldn't do it, and that's okay. But I picked up The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, and gosh, this was an interesting one to reread again. I think there were so many aspects of this book as a kid, and I remember just learning about how C.S. Lewis really ties this into the Bible and into scripture and into the end times, and I have to say, I was not prepared to read this as an adult and realize, oh, was C.S. Lewis a universalist? Maybe so. And did I learn that as a child? Absolutely not. And it really just threw me for a loop. But I do enjoy this book. I rated it a solid 4 stars. Last Battle's great. Not my favorite book. There's some things in it that are really interesting takes. But it helped get me out of a reading slump. I was so happy to be in a world that I knew, that I was rereading, and it was so great. And I can't wait to talk about normal characters on my Bookstagram. You should check that out. So that's The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. Okay, this is where Instagram really pulled it out for me. I also did a poll about 2 romance books, and funny enough, Instagram landed on this one. And by this time in the month, I had about a week left. No. I had 4 days. Oh, wait. Before I talk about this book. Okay, so before I move on to my last book and kind of talk about that, I want to say that audiobooks. I have never done an audiobook. My nephew was having his first communion, and I really wanted to be a part of that, and I was going to be driving about 6 to 7 hours that day. And by this point, I had just finished The Last Battle. I had about 5 days left in the month, and in my mind, I'm going, okay, this could be interesting. How am I going to do this? I've read 5 books. I really need at least a 6th book, but if I can get 7, that would be great. So I landed on an audiobook. This is called Finding Me by Viola Davis. I normally can't do audiobooks. I hate audio. Okay, I don't hate them now because I'm kind of now realizing what I can listen to. But I find that listening to really any kind of fiction book does not work for me in audiobook format. I have tried Heir, I have tried Chronicles of Narnia, I tried Harry Potter. I've tried so many, and even books that I know, and I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. I struggle with it. And so I kind of just said, you just can't do audiobooks. But then this road trip where I'm in the car by myself, I just said, you know what? Let's give it another shot. One of my favorite book podcasts is called Shelf Respect. I'll put a link down below in my description, but I will also put a picture here. And one of the readers on that podcast was saying that she can't really do audiobooks either. But a genre of books that she can do is nonfiction, specifically autobiography and memoirs. Those she can do because it's people telling their stories. And how captivating is that in audio format? I think it's pretty cool and genius idea. So I decided, let's try it with Finding Me by Viola Davis. I was not planning on crying in the car. I was not planning on laughing in the car. I was not planning to be narrated by Viola, the queen herself, and really just dive into her world. I honestly thought that this book was going to be a lot more about her, there's a word for it, discography, videography, movieography, all of the movies and TV shows. Or her filmography, maybe that's the right word. Anyways, I really just thought that she was going to talk about that part of her life, but really she dug deep into the early parts of her life, her childhood, what made her her, the fact that she applied to Juilliard within 1 day versus 3 days, and auditioned for Juilliard in 1 day versus 3 days, and just all the things that she went through, the hoops that she jumped to get where she is in TV and film. It is beyond spectacular and beautiful, and this book just made me feel so many things. I was an educator for 9 years, and I worked in Title I low-income schools, and some of the stories, you guys, that she shares are heartbreaking, the things that she went through being a child in the 70s, and I don't want to think about it or I'll start crying, but this book just really got to me. It really just moved me, and it made me go, okay, I can see where audiobooks have a place. I can see where it's interesting, unique, and you can enjoy it and listen to it. And what was really nice about the audiobook was it was 9 hours. So I listened to it at 1.5 speed and got through about 7 hours of the car. And then the next day when I was grocery shopping, my son was at school, I was able to finish it. And yeah, I couldn't believe I read that book truly in over 1 day. It was amazing. So I highly recommend it. That is Finding Me by Viola Davis. I rated this one a full 5 stars. I just remember listening to it and going, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel for April. There are some books that just are going to minister and be beautiful to me, and that was one of them. Highly, highly recommend in audiobook format. Viola, she reads it herself and has voices for her family members and people in her life, and it's just so so beautiful. And if I ever get to meet her one day, I will give her a giant hug and say thank you for making me cry in the car. Okay, so after I read, or listened, but did read Finding Me by Viola Davis, I got home from that trip and said, okay, you have 4 days. Let's pick up the romance novel that your Bookstagram community picked for you. So this is And Now Back to You by BK Borrison. This has been on my shelf for 2 months, not super long. I have read First Time Caller by BK Borrison. My last video, I actually talked about authors I ought to buy, and this author is becoming one that I buy almost every book that she writes. And I definitely was curious to read this one. I was nervous to read this one, especially because The Everlasting didn't leave an everlasting impression on me. Punny, I know, but it's true. And so I ended up getting this one and going, okay, you have 4 days, no pressure. But I really did not think I was going to finish this. But I finished this on April 30th and am proud of myself because it was an interesting, long reading month for me. But this is And Now Back to You by BK Borrison. You guys. I rated this one 5 stars. Let me just say this. I liked First Time Caller. I want to say I probably rated that one around 4 stars. Didn't think it was a bad book. I loved the writing style. I loved the ways that the characters just related to one another. I love some of the character growth, not all the character growth, but I really, really enjoyed just the conversations with the characters. It felt like I was sitting in there with them, and it was just so fun. And this book, oh my gosh, I think it's better than First Time Caller. I'm just gonna say it. There's a lot of reviews out there that kind of feel one of two ways. They like this one better, or they think First Time Caller is way better, but this one's worth reading. And I have to say, I think this one's better. I fell in love with Jackson and Delilah. Let me kind of back up and give you a very mini plot synopsis. This is about Jackson and Delilah. Delilah is a wishful, wanting to be meteorologist, and Jackson is a meteorologist, and he actually appeared in First Time Caller. He was really good friends with Aiden on the radio show, and he kind of does the weather section of the news and of the radio show. And he and Delilah end up getting kind of set up to do a weather report in Baltimore, Maryland, where there's going to be a huge storm, and it's kind of a big break for Delilah in her career to be able to do something fun. But she and Jackson cannot stand each other. She parks outside of her parking space majority of the time they've worked together. Jackson leaves post-it notes on her car to say, hey, can you move it? Can you actually park correctly? It's pretty diabolical, but I feel like some people just are like that. And it was really funny to just read that and to read about how much they can't stand each other. But they get set up, and what's kind of funny about it is they go to Baltimore and find out there's only one room available for them to stay in. So think close proximity, think not enemies, but like rivals to lovers, think just all the things. But man, the romance build up for this is so good. The characters, Jackson's kind of home life, Delilah's home life, and the things that she goes through are just so real and so good, but they don't feel like they overpower the story. Whereas I felt like First Time Caller, some of those family things just kind of brush over the characters and you slightly deal with it. Whereas this book, you deal with some of the things they're going through, but in a good way, and I loved it. This one is inspired by When Harry Met Sally, and I just enjoyed this one. I finished it in 4 days and I loved it. I rated this one 5 stars. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I think the third one is going to be based off of You've Got Mail, so that'll be really fun. I don't think a cover or title has been released yet to my knowledge, but I really loved it. Now Back to You. It was a great end to the month for me. Okay, these are all the books along with an audiobook that I read in the month of April. I have to say this month had its highs and lows. It had its moments where I needed to take a reading break, and that's okay. But it ended up still being a solid month of reading for me, and I am on track to make it to 80 books by the end of the year, which is crazy to me. So stay tuned for the rest of my videos for the month of May. If you have any video ideas for me or things you want me to talk about, put a comment down below. Let's continue on with this reading conversation. And yeah, thanks for tuning into Pours and Prose, and can't wait to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May, which will pretty much be one book series, but that's okay. Cheers. Hope you all survive the week. It's a Monday for me today, so let's get after it, and happy reading. Oh, these books. Oh, also, make sure to like and subscribe and join in on the Pours and Prose community. community. Thanks for letting me talk about books. Thanks for letting me yap about books. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.